Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Broadland District Council on the 30th of September. This meeting is being live streamed. First of all, I must announce the fire regulations as they apply here. We're not expecting a fire drill this evening, but in the event of an emergency, you can leave the room by the doors in which you entered, and also on the left-hand side as indicated. Right, this evening we have the opportunity of a police presentation. They're always very welcome to attend our meetings, and basically the presentation will last approximately 10 minutes, but there will be an opportunity for questions up to a maximum of about 20 minutes. But I think it's important that we do hear this update from the police as to where we stand at the present time, and how what they're doing affects our local community. And it's my pleasure to welcome Chief Inspector Harvey, and I believe he's got two colleagues with him. And whose names I don't think are on the list here, but if he'd like to come forward to commence his presentation, that will be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the leader for the invite. At the handover a few weeks ago, I was asked if we could come and resume the brief that we used to give you at full council before we went into the dreadful times of COVID and lockdown. And I know that as a council, we've had a good, well, certainly I like to think that I've had a good relationship over the last almost 5 years with you. And I just wanted to really bring you up to speed with how crime is changing across the district and what challenges we're facing at the moment, and then leave it open to you for some questions. Tonight with me, Kerry's here from Aylsham. So Kerry looks after the Aylsham area, which, you know, goes all the way down for us down to Helston. Really, the police station's in the wrong place. It should be in Helston, but we're trying to address that over the next few years. And Andy looks after Sprouston for me, which takes us also all the way across to Acle. And what we're hoping to do over the next few months is start having a lot more local briefings. So they'll have to brief you 3 times a year. It will be online, I'm afraid, but it will give you a much more local feel and some opportunities to ask questions and hold them accountable for the things that are going on policing wise on your patch. So that will be more regular briefing for you as members, because I know it's important we keep you up to date. So I'll try and keep, it says brief, I'll do my best to keep it in 10 minutes. But I want to start off by saying that I'm on 30 years now, and when I first joined, burglary, theft from motor vehicles, all of that, what we called acquisitive crime that's committed to feed drug use, was an all-time high. It's interesting, I've done a bit of almost bingo when I've done an open forum conversation online the other day to say, how many burglaries do you think we have for a whole district in a month? And last month, for the whole month of August, which is one of our busiest months, we had 3 burglaries. 2 of them were between people that knew each other. So one burglary across the whole district. And actually non-houses, so sheds, businesses, commercial buildings, just 2 in a whole district. That's staggeringly low figures that have gone on. We reached a real bottom end with crime through COVID, and it just hasn't taken off again. And I'll try and explain some of those reasons if I can. But theft from motor vehicles, when I was at Yarmouth, we'd come in at 30 in the morning. We have 2 across a whole district, across a whole month. That crime, theft of motor vehicles, where people steal 1 car stolen across a district in a month. So I know what the next question is. So what are you doing then? And I guess that's where the real challenge is, because the flip is now that I think the police have really responded well to the responses for domestic violence. We've got really good teams in that safeguard victims. We have good processes that make sure we arrest people as quickly as we can. But disturbingly, the cases of violence now around domestic abuse are around about 160 a month for this district, and they're going up every month. And so where perhaps we were following around and looking for criminals committing crime, now it's very much crimes behind closed doors, and giving people the confidence to report crime to us, and then making sure we respond in the right way. So that's really the big increase area of crime for us. Antisocial behaviour. Actually, we just have one report a day at the moment across the district. A lot of antisocial behaviour is probably going unreported. A lot of it has moved online. But antisocial behaviour, as we know, has changed as well, because antisocial behaviour now tends to be between neighbours, people that have fallen out in streets. It's a little bit mixed emotion with me at the moment. Our young people, and I think I've spoken here before, spent the last 15 years tucked up insides playing with their PlayStations and online gaming. After our young lady done so well in the Olympics on skateboard, and they've decided to get back out in the open fresh air post-COVID, and they're back out on rec areas near us at the moment, and it has been a struggle. We have seen a summer of young people enjoying some freedom and sometimes drink and pop while they're out as well, and that stretched us. But we put an operation in immediately following the COVID relaxation to make sure that we got across all open spaces. So that's ASB. And I think I've been here before, and we've talked about county lines, and so we know what county lines is. It's a phrase that we're all aware of now. And one of the issues for us is wrapped around the city, where still most of the street dealing has been happening, are some of our young people. And unfortunately, some of our looked after young people that live on us in care have been brought into county lines dealing. But the response to that in Norfolk has been fantastic. In fact, so much so that the model used in Norfolk around how we target drug dealers in London, and we nick them now, not for drug dealing, but we nick them for exploiting young people and bringing them into crime. And the sentences are a lot bigger, 7, 8, 9 years. So our approach now is to use mobile phone technology, use surveillance, use covert tactics, informants, to find out who's exploiting our young people from London, from that safe place miles away, and then breaking that relationship down and working with partners to try, when they do end up getting in trouble, well, that's what we call the teachable moment through the youth offending team, is trying to get the children into a different lifestyle. And it has worked so well. I think the last time I was here, there were about 35 active county lines across the county, mostly in Norwich, some in Yarmouth, and just 2 in Kings Lynn. We're down to about 12. That's how effective it's been. And of course, that's all. They're exploiting young people to do the hard work on the street, but they're also the ones that are then falling out. And the reason it's important for Broadland is that I was concerned about, would we lose our open spaces around almost like a gang culture? Would that happen? And we did see one incident a couple of years ago on the patch. And that was the first sign really for us. So we've got a special operation now called Operation Bokken. And the inspectors certainly meet on a weekly basis to make sure we're tracking and monitoring these young people. And that number of young people is getting smaller and smaller. In fact, just yesterday, there was a brief that a lot more people that do use heroin and crack now are back into their GPs on scripted medications rather than street buying, which is a really good sign. So we're still really active in that. We're still really trying to make sure that we corral that activity and we nip it in the bud from the London base, and we connect up with our own local people. And it's worked so well that actually the Home Office gave Norfolk £5 million for an operation called Op-Adder, which wraps around a whole load of support for families and young people. And we've got a fantastic flashing at me. I'll try and show. So we've got a really good Detective Chief Inspector Sonia Humphreys. I went out of time. Was that you checking me my 5 minutes? We've got a really good Detective Chief Inspector who's developed all of these things. He sits in the centre of the county, really coordinating this. And I think it's really positive news for Broadland, because the young people that have been placed on us, they can get picked up outside their care home. They can be exploited to sell drugs. And it's a duty on all of us to make sure that we break that chain of offending. So that's a big part of what's going on for us at the moment. Sexual offences are up, but they're up between people that know each other. They're not stranger sexual offences. Assaults are up, but they're not. About 87% of them are between people that know each other. Actually, we don't have stranger assaults. We don't have public order against people that don't know each other. So I'll be honest, Chair and councillors, I still think we've got one of the safest districts, not just in this county, but in the country. And I think there'll be a number of district commanders that'd be quite happy to swap my crime stats with theirs. But the crime patterns are changing. You know, the crime is behind closed doors now, and that is keeping us busy. After a dreadful case that collapsed 3 or 4 years ago in the press around a rape and the disclosure on mobile phones, police officers now also have to disclose all unused material. In fact, I dealt with a case, or was asked to review a case between a couple in their 80s that had Alzheimer's. It was a nasty assault, and the medical records ran to 900 pages. And all of those 900 pages have got to be uploaded. They've all got to be disclosed before you can even get a charge. So the Attorney General's guidance has changed. So with these new cases comes a greater burden on investigation. So because the crime's changed, it was a bit easier in the old days. You'd lock them up, chuck them in the chokey. It was quite straightforward. They either had stolen gear on them or you had the fingerprints at the scene, and that was the job done, unless they went not guilty at the Crown Court. I'd have to prepare a great big file. Now we're having to prepare those files up front. So with the change in crime comes quite a big difference in the way that we have to investigate crime. And that does have a knock on everything we do. But I've always been really interested in how we keep presence on the street. So you've still got your beat managers. We've just lost Angie, who was working out of Taverham, who was fantastic. You've still got your dedicated beat managers. And what we tried to do this year was introduce something called Park Walk Talk, where I encourage the officers to park up. If they're doing too much paperwork, get out of the nick, go buy a coffee somewhere, walk around and talk to people, and then actually tweet that they're going out for those that are into Twitter. And what we've seen is quite a big uptake. We have had the busiest summer we've ever had in Norfolk, but actually we are seeing officers getting out and parking up and walking around. But we have tried to focus that where we're getting reports from yourselves in the public around where there's ASB, so in some of the play areas. So that's kind of where we're at. All of that service is provided to you by the 2 inspectors. They have 12 sergeants and around about 60 PCs. So I think, if I'm honest, they've been there every day for you through COVID. We had very little sickness. They've stood up. We've not reduced the service at all. In fact, we didn't miss a beat on our grade A's or B's. We've been getting out to you in 15 minutes. We've been getting out to you within half a grade B's, which is the priority service. So I think actually you're very well served here by the team. And I can say that as I'm now going, but it's good for me to know that actually at my level of service now, to see a frontline that are so engaged with domestic violence, with sexual offending, but it is the high risk harm side of stuff, but they are doing you a good job. So I just wanted to give you that overview, really. I have took a lot more notes and I can break it down at LPC level. So Chair, are you okay if I just introduce the 2 inspectors?
Yes, please.
So over to Kerry just to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Kerry Woodbine. I have been on the patch for 10 months now, believe it or not. I came through the difficult period when COVID struck. So many of you will know I cover Aylsham, Drayton, Taverham, Helston, Horsford, and over to Reetham and the surrounding parishes. My background before coming over to the Broadland area, I was the Chief Staff Officer. So I worked directly for the Chief Constable and the Deputy. My background is what we would call PSU, so riots and events and stuff like that. So please, most of you have contacted me. If you haven't contacted me, please come and approach me and I will give you my contact details. I know most of you speak to my beat managers regularly anyway. As the superintendent has mentioned, we have lost my my Sergeant Youd, who was like a comfort blanket to me when I first arrived on Broadland and taught me the ways of Broadland. My new sergeant is James Marrison. So please take that down. It's James.Marrison, Mike Alpha, Romeo, India Sierra, Oscar November Marrison, or mine, Kerry.Woodbine. Thank you.
I've got a noisy voice, so I don't need that. It's fine. Andy Terry, I'm the new inspector for the Sprangston area, from the area that Kerry mentioned all the way over through to April. I've had the opportunity to meet a couple of you in the room since I've been there, which is only since the end of June now. My background more recently is as a detective sergeant, moving on from what Superintendent Harvey was talking about around the processes that we're now having to adopt in order to build files and get cases. That was what I was doing, so I can bring quite a lot to the cops working on my area and Kerry's area in relation to how to do that and bringing them on with that. I've got 25 years in the job. I was actually a sergeant in Sprowston as well some years ago, so it's a little bit like coming back for me. Number of experiences, well, I'm not going to bore you with, because they can be quite boring. But my details are out there. You'll be able to find me. The email is out there. The phone number is out there as well. Like Kerry's mentioned, very good safe and neighbourhood team sergeant in Matt Wakefield. We are in the process of recruiting a couple of new beat managers at the moment for my patch, as the two of the ones that I had have moved upwards at the moment, and are now sergeants, temporary sergeants, awaiting promotion themselves. So we are in the process of recruiting people into those important roles. All right. Thank you for having us this evening. Andy Terry, Terry.
Thank you very much indeed for your presentations. I think we are all impressed by the great work you have been doing, particularly during the COVID period. And I think our one regret is so far that we have not been able to have meetings of the Safer Neighbourhood Action Panels, which we place great store by. But my first question would be on that. I think we're now approaching the stage where we can have face-to-face meetings at selected venues, and clearly I would like an indication from you as to the timescale in which we can introduce these.
Well, we're just going to get on with it. So we know where we're at the moment. Kerry and Andy are quite happy to get out and get them going again. They have tried online in some places. It just doesn't work in a real environment. You need to see us. We need to see you. You can feel very unloved online. Actually, a little bit of close personal contact and that feedback, I think that accountability face-to-face means so much. So they will both be in contact and we will get them up and running for you. I think it'll be supplemented with a bit of online, because we have found it's a really useful way in half an hour to get a straightforward message and take some questions. And certainly with the fuel thing at the moment, I'm sure we're quite pleased, actually, aren't we? We don't know that we're out of trouble with COVID yet, so let's wait and see. So we're going to try and run both, but yes, we will, and we'll be in contact soon.
All right, thank you very much. Now it's your opportunity to ask a question. Yes, please.
Thank you. I've attended a briefing recently at the council of the changes that are going across Norfolk with domestic abuse, and I think they're admirable, with a one phone number and so on that is coming along. But I doubt there's a single person in this room this evening that's not heartbroken to hear what happened to Sarah Everard. We've now had another young woman, Sabina Nessa, brutally murdered. I know it doesn't happen in this area, but it doesn't stop women like myself feeling not able to walk from A to B alone. I'm just wondering, is there something we can do at the council to tap in with police to try and make women just feel safe, and girls and other residents as well, but mainly women and girls?
Yeah, certainly. And like you, I've been following it, and it's a real tragedy. And for police officers, serving police officers, has been horrendous. And, you know, my heart goes out to Sarah's family. It's just been absolutely heartbreaking. I'm with you on that. And we do know that actually violence against lone strangers in Norfolk is very low. But I don't think we should rest on our laurels about that. I think we're waiting to see what some of the instruction will be out of this. Certainly, I'm even now being approached as a lone female by a police officer in question. I've done 30 years. I've never seen that before. Really, really difficult circumstances. But yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll pick up with you as a council, because I think it's a great idea to try and be proactive around it. Certainly for those in the room, if you're asked, we don't have plainclothes patrols that are just going to stop random members of the public. Our plainclothes patrols are doing targeted patrols. It was a very unusual MO and absolutely horrendous, but it will be officers in uniform in Norfolk. But we are waiting to see what that instruction looks like. So we'll be in contact. But please be rest assured that we have very single numbers in a year around people being assaulted by strangers in the county. That they're not at a high level at all. But yeah, like yourself, my heart go out to the family. Just pleased to see that the judge made a big decision around actually giving a whole life tariff when it didn't meet the criterion. You know, I don't know what more to say about it other than, like yourself, my condolences go to the family, really.
Any more questions, please? Yes.
Do you think the council could do something like giving personal alarms to vulnerable?
Yeah, I think if I'll ask Kerry to connect up, and we'll do something with the council at a Broadland policing level, and then because we also work across with South Norfolk and see what we can do. So I think it'd be good to have a meeting and see what we could do. So I think absolutely less, but I think we can pick that up outside.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we're all probably picking up over the last few years how domestic abuse cases have increased. The reporting of those cases seems to be better than what it was, easier to access as well. Are you also seeing an increase in prosecutions commensurate with this increase to 160? You're also seeing prosecutions increase as well?
Not really. It stays quite settled. The detection rate's not great. Very often victims, after a lifetime or a period of domestic abuse, don't really want to go necessarily through the criminal justice system. We have had some victimless prosecutions. Our officers now are told to put their body-worn videos on when we first turn up. So if a victim doesn't feel that they can go to court for whatever reasons, actually the body-worn video can be used. So we're really starting to push that now. But you can imagine the sheer numbers and the amount of unused material that we now have just means it takes longer to get justice. So we are all looking at it. We have a special group at headquarters that I sit on around how can we make it easier for victims, how can we make it quicker and make sure we get the suspects in and take all the operational opportunities we can. But so, yeah, we're working on it all the while, but we're in a completely different place than we were just 5 years ago, quite honestly.
So it's still improving.
It's still difficult to, with about 40 to 50% victims don't wish to prosecute. So we're trying to break that down now. And actually the body worn, we're now also going to be showing a video around the process. So we're changing our whole processes to try and support victims and actually take the onus off them to give the evidence and actually put the evidence together. And actually that first shock moment when you walk through the door with your body worn video on, that is proven enough in some occasions to get charged, but it is still something we're working on.
Thanks.
Any more questions? Yes.
Hello. Oh, thanks for coming and thanks for all the work that you do for the community. You've mentioned in your report about offences against the person and property. So what input do you have, or how are Broadland residents affected by cybercrime and things like scams and fraud? Would you say that's something that's the biggest increase that you're seeing? Because obviously something's going down, but something must be going up, or you would only be working a 2-day week.
No, I think it's an area that we've still got a lot of work to do in. I'm probably like everybody else here. I think I won the lottery the other side of the world just yesterday, and I've been blackmailed or tried to be online. It is everywhere. We have a system where we've brought into a national process around that, but I think we would all honestly say that we need to have another look at that. And I know that the National Council of Chief Officers are recognising just the impact this is having on people, because again, it's preying on the vulnerable, it's preying on those people that live on their own. So there's more work to do. There is a lot of it goes unreported, but the stuff that does get reported goes into a central area. And I think you've seen an investment here by the previous chief where we're going to be building a new investigation site at Broadland Gate. And a lot of that really is about making sure we've got the technology and the people with the know-how. So we're actually, believe it or not, employing special cyber detectives that can download these things. And they're not all police officers, some of them are civilian investigators. But again, a massive area of growth, plenty still to learn. And I don't think we've got it right at the moment, if I'm honest. I think there's a lot unreported. We have had a real success with Operadium. Again, unfortunately, where people pretending to be the police officers, turning up, telling people that their cards have been stolen and we need to come and collect your bank card and you need to pay us some money. But we had a really good forced response to that. In fact, it was the Aylsham area where someone phoned us, said that we need to come and pick your bank card up and you're going to have to pay us £500, and knocked on the door to take the money. And that was one of our officers rather than the elderly person. So we have had a forced response to some of that, but largely it's getting reported into a central place.
Right. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask Andy, which parishes you cover? You may have said, but I didn't hear.
Yeah, certainly. So we go from, I go from Sprowston here in towards the city centre, up St Andrew, through Cantley, through the marshes, through Acle. So that area all over towards the east.
Does it include the Old Cabin?
Yes, it would, yes.
I see. And where are you based?
Based at Sprowston, as the superintendent just said, we've got the new build is going in at the Broadland gate. Ground broken there just recently. I had a discussion and a look at plans with our building people in the constabulary only this week to see what's going in there and exactly how it's going to work. And over the course of the next 12 months, that will be going out, and we'll be moving from the police station on Roxham Road over to Broadland Gate.
To Broadland Gate.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Okay.
Hello. I have taken it up through our parish council in terms of crime statistics and how they're reported. So I wouldn't want to duplicate that, but just to raise the point that the crime stats that come out to the parish council don't seem to correspond with the crime stats on the website that you run. And it is a bit confusing because you've got different categories. And certainly we're aware through the parish council of an incident that wasn't reported then in the subsequent monthly updates on crime stats. So I'm just saying it'd be useful to clarify just how you're reporting those.
Forgive me, Cantley?
Yes.
Yes, I answered the email, I think, a couple of days ago. Responded to that a couple of days ago.
Okay, but it is a general issue.
Yeah, I think one of the problems since the crime has changed, if you have one crime in the village and it's a theft from a motor vehicle, that's one thing. But if it's a domestic violence and the victim doesn't want everybody in the village to know, we've got in a bit of a bother with this now. So I think the problem with crime reporting is that because the crime stats have changed, we found ourselves in a difficult position where we've let the cat out of the bag in some instances. So it's back on the agenda for a big discussion with our analysts to make sure we get it right. What we wouldn't want to do is put somebody in more danger as a result of putting crime stats out there. And so it's another real complex area for us, but we are on it. And I think that's why if you can have a brief with your inspector regularly, trust those stats, and if you've got questions, let's solve your problems for you. And actually, we all know what we can do with stats. So I think actually having an honest reflection on what's going on in your patch is probably more powerful.
Right. Any more questions? Yes.
Thank you. It's just a process one, really. How will councillors get invited to the face-to-face meetings? Thanks.
Okay, so the PCC has the independently advisory group. We're great at three-letter things in the police. So it's the IAG, and it's Sam England for those that know her. She will chair the meeting if you like, and she'll get everyone together and make sure the invites are going out. We feel that it's going to be a monthly brief. So Andy, bless him, will have to brief you 3 times a year, as will Kerry. And then what we will do is, as district lead, whoever replaces me, they will also brief you twice a year, so that you have a regular briefing. You'll get invited to that, and that'll be a similar sort of format. We'll give you some information, and that'll be an open forum. What we've been very good at is answering your questions. So if you can't get the 101 answered, or you haven't had a snap meeting, but there's something that's really getting on your nerves, you can bring it to us, and within 2 weeks, we tend to be getting answers and problem solved for you. So we've got good connection between yourselves. But where we've really broken new ground is getting into the third sector, so men's shed. Some of the stuff that's gone on there, where we can connect members of the community with services that are out there. So that's the aspiration, not only to brief you, but to learn who else is out there leading in the community. So church, food bank, we've tried it in South Norfolk, and it's been fantastic response. We've been able to connect people better through us, because they keep ringing on 101 and they might have the solution down the road. So that's the idea. It goes beyond the briefing into a better community connect.
soon. The next one
Leader?
will be January. All right.
Leader, I think you want to comment?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it does. I think looks like we've exhausted questions. I'd just like to thank Chris and his team for all the work that they do for us, the support they give us at Broadland, and the ongoing support that we are going to receive from Andy and Kerry as things move forward and as Chris moves away and steps away from his role at this point in time. So good luck with the future, whatever you decide to do and however that shapes up for you. But on behalf of Broadland, I'd just like to thank you personally for all of the things that you've done for us, your knowledge and the way in which you've shared how the police are on top of what's happening is very reassuring. And I think the words you used was "we are well served," and that comes across so very plainly. So thank you so much on behalf of the council.
Thank you. It's been a real privilege. Are we okay to get on with our duties?
Yes, yeah, and thank you very much for your contribution this evening. And I'd like to echo what's been said, and we the whole body of people here tonight fully appreciate the great efforts which you have made and continue to make in the area, making us one of the safest, if not the safest, place in the area. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Right. Moving swiftly on to our agenda, item number 1, declarations of interest. Have we any to make? No. Right. Item number two, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've received apologies from Councillors Fisher, Bullman, Gurney, Harrison, Hempsall, Holland, King, Lawn, Peck and Starling.
Thank you. Anybody know of any more? Nigel Shaw. Yeah, thank you. Right, moving on to item number 3, which is minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of July. Anybody, any problems with those minutes? They are on page 7 onwards. No. Okay. Moving on to item number 4, matters arising not contained on tonight's agenda. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 11, minute 23. It's moving towards a first-class customer service. As a member of the council, I regard myself as an internal customer, and can I say I am a little bit perturbed that we don't seem to be operating in a manner which is reflected in the minutes. And just to give an example, as of today, I rang up the IT support because you know my level of expertise in IT, and at 1:45, I got no answer. I got no answer. It didn't trickle through to anybody. I got no answer. So I rang reception and I got them to email IT services and asked them to contact me with my home telephone number. At 3:15, I then decided to ring again, and I did get a gentleman this time. I gave him the query, couldn't answer it. He passed it on to another person in IT support. They could not answer it, and I was assured that somebody would get back to me, which they did at 4:15. And can I say, if that's a first-class service, I wonder what a second-class service is.
Anyone like to comment on that?
Chairman, I'm happy to comment on that. I've just asked the councillor, has the problem been resolved, sir? Thank you very much indeed.
But can I say, Chairman, that that particular problem may well have been resolved, but it is actually a symptomatic of what's going on, or indeed, should I put it the other way around, it is symptomatic of what's not going on. And can I also say that is when one department, I could give another example in a different department, but I haven't got the permission of the complainant to use it tonight. Thank you.
Chairman, if I could just respond. Councillor Reid, as ever, I'm happy to take the second complaint that you want to refer. I'm happy to discuss that with you after the meeting, of course.
Thank you, Chair. But can I ask what is going to be done about the first complaint and getting this structural problem solved?
I think the Managing Director has given you the appropriate answer which you require on that. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm happy to come back. Councillor, I think what you described to me was a phone call this morning, which by the cease of play today, the problem had been resolved. So in terms of, I don't know what the commitments were on the team, but I'm happy to look at that. But actually, the problem that you raised this morning had been resolved before you came into council this evening. I'm again happy to have a conversation with you offline to say where were the challenges in that process for you, and also to speak to the team to understand what the problem was and what the technicalities were around fixing that problem for you, and provide you with a comprehensive response.
Councillor Roper.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think this is an issue entirely confined to Councillor Beadle, and I think many of us have heard issues around customer services. So I hope the Managing Director will extend that invitation to all members to report these issues through to him. I think what you've got here is a very persistent local councillor looking to make contact. I don't know what it would be like, perhaps, for an elderly or vulnerable member of the community who is trying to ring through to our customer service line and being stuck on hold for maybe many minutes before they even get through to somebody. So I think we do need action on this, and I would urge all councillors to report the matter through to Managing Director as and when things arise.
Chairman, thank you. Councillor Roper, you know we've had conversations around phone stats, etc., and you know we're working on some of the challenges, and I would reiterate the offer that you've made on my behalf. If councillors have challenges, please do let me know so that we can look into the particular circumstances as well as the broader issues. Thank you.
One further comment? Yes.
Could I ask you to look into planning as well? I've been waiting 2 days for a result from planning. Thank you.
Councillor, again, perhaps we can talk about the particulars after the meeting, and if there is a challenge there, then I'll look into it. Again, I don't know to what you're referring, but happy to have a discussion after this meeting. Thank you.
Yes, referring to what the Managing Director has said, I think clearly there are certain issues which clearly need to be resolved, and he has made the offer to be accessible to any questions and issues which you may have. So I think we can leave it there. He has given you an undertaking. Thank you. Yes.
It's a slightly different point in relation to this matter, and that is in terms of the systems that are in operation at the moment, because I too, on numerous occasions, tried to get through to IT. I've eventually found out what's going on. First phone call goes to South Norfolk. Then I'm also finding out, even though they're in the building, there's clearly some phone issue going on. There's some technical issue now working in 2 different buildings as one team. And I, for one, and I believe a number of councillors, have got no clue about how these systems are operating, in particular with the autonomy that's going on with 70% of staff working at home. So we have not got a clear picture about how the systems are working. That would be very helpful if we did.
Yeah, carry on.
Chairman, thank you. In terms of the phone systems and people are working from home, actually people are more accessible than they have been in terms of the way the system works. There have been some challenges with the hunt groups, but those are being worked through and sorted. Again, if councillors have particular problems, then please do. I'll stay after the meeting and pick up those problems with you. More than happy to do that.
Clancy had his name up there.
Thank you, Chair. On the basis of the comments made by some of the other members and from some of the murmurings and nodding round the room, and going back to what Councillor Beadle said about the first-class service, are you happy to say, Managing Director, that the council is providing a first-class service at this point?
Chairman, thank you.
Yes.
I think it's good to have the discussion in full council, but I think it's known that we've had some challenges with the phone system. Those are being worked and corrected. Particularly the challenge has been with the hunt groups. I don't know if there's a problem with planning, because I don't know in terms of the decision, the response that's looked for, whether that's a decision that's been taken, and we'll absolutely pick that up after this meeting. Equally, I don't know what the technical problems were that caused the delay, but actually a problem raised this morning has been resolved before we came into council this evening. So actually, I wouldn't describe that as a poor service. I'd describe that as a good service if the problem's resolved within 24 hours. But again, exploring the nature of the problem might be useful to do that. We will always strive to improve. We're making improvements with the phone system as it is. And one of our assistant directors who is responsible for that area has been working tirelessly to make sure that the challenges that have been there in the system with the hunt groups are fixed. The policy to which you refer to is absolutely about making sure that we do deliver a first-class customer service. There have been some challenges. It would be wrong of me not to acknowledge that, but we are working to fix those. And absolutely, as you would expect us to, we will continue to strive to deliver a first-class customer service. And I thank you for your question.
Councillor Clancy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think it's fairly well known throughout the chamber that there is basically systemic failings in service level at this stage. And I think, nearly every councillor in this room has experienced it. What I would propose, Chairman, is we ask the Managing Director to come back to the next full council meeting with a report on improvements at which have been instigated and delivered between this meeting and the next meeting. Because there's a lot of councillors here who wouldn't speak on this issue, who have experienced the similar problems, and they are ongoing. And they're across many sections of the authority. And this is a perception which our customers are beginning to feel. And I think it's been made, the point has been made, because we are dogged people, we stick with it, we maintain, and we try and work our way through a broken system. What I'm concerned about is our customers, people out there who can't stick with it and don't stick with it, and basically they're being let down. So I would propose from the floor, if it's legal to do so, that we ask the MD to come back with a full and comprehensive report at the next council meeting about what actual improvements have been put in place and what indicators are being put in place to monitor such improvements. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman, if I might, Councillor Clancy, because we've exchanged emails on this, that absolutely we are working towards those things, and I am more than happy to provide council with a brief on the progress made. The reductions in wait times, the reductions in dropped calls, and progress that is being made. It would be a pleasure to do that. Thank you.
I think we take on board the comments which have been made, and obviously the Managing Director has given you an undertaking there, and I think clearly we'll leave it to him to report back once he has completed his investigation and decided on what action should be taken. Thank you. Right, moving on to item number 5 on the agenda, elections on the 28th of September. Monitoring officer, please.
Chairman, if I could pick that up as a returning officer.
Yes,
thank you. So councillors will no doubt be aware that we undertook 3 by-elections, and the results of those were calculated yesterday. and it's my pleasure to tell you what the results of those were for the purpose of those being captured in the minutes. So Brundle Ward, to give you the turnout, it was 32.18%, and the ballot papers issued were 1,579. And I'm sure council would wish to welcome to the council chamber those two councillors that were elected to the ward, Councillor Jan Davis of the Green Party and Councillor Eleanor Lamming of the Green Party, who were elected for Brundle Ward. The other election for the district council was for Old Catton and Sprowston West Ward. In that election, the turnout was 21.91%, and the ballot papers issued were 1,499. And again, I'm sure council would wish to welcome Councillor Richard Potter, who was duly elected as the Conservative Party candidate in that by-election. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Managing Director. I would echo the comments which have been made, and wish to welcome all three new councillors to this council, and we look forward to them playing an appropriate role in the months to come. And I think that they are most welcome, and clearly that's a big job to be getting on with now, and we wish them every good fortune. Right, moving on to yes.
Could I also add congratulations from all members to the new members? Pleased to see them here. But can I also thank the previous councillors for their services? And in particular, I'd like to pay respect to Councillor Snowling. He served the council for many a decade and served it very ably and well. And can I say, on a personal note, I came to one meeting and he came to the meeting and he had a couple of dolls, Chairman. And one was of a lady, blonde-haired lady, and the other one was of a gentleman with a handlebar moustache. And he bought them because it reminded him of my wife and I. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, very kind and generous offer, I'm sure. I think the leader would like to make a comment now, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And again, as has been said tonight, welcome to the three new councillors. It's good to see your faces here looking back at us. So welcome tonight. I also just want to take the opportunity to pick up about Mike Snowling, just to reiterate a few of the things and maybe share an anecdote in the same way that has just been done. But again, just to give you a bit of history with Mike and the work that he did for us. He served the Brundle Ward for 20 years. He was chairman of this council for 4 years. So he did his time. He was chairman of planning for just over 10 years. So as someone who did a hell of a lot of work for this council, so he will be missed. Also, just to perhaps reiterate something that he did outside of this council and the work that he did with the Chernobyl children, which obviously he received his MBE for, but again, that was something where he just got up and did something about it rather than allowing it to just carry on. Again, perhaps the key thing with Mike is remembering that one of the things he had was a rather wicked sense of humour and the ability to raise emotions in a way that perhaps others were unable to, and I'm trying to pick my words carefully. To the extent that I do remember in this very council chamber that he did invoke the chairman of the council, not the said chairman, but the chairman of the council to raise a certain finger in a way that he shouldn't have raised a certain finger, which he had to then apologise for doing at the next council meeting. And I think Mike would be the only councillor who would be able to enable that to happen or make that happen. So I think, as with everybody else, he will be missed as a face around here. But he is still around. Do see him. Do give him a call. You've all got his number. He is on the mend as far as feeling better than he was, but he's not 100% yet. But as I say, as a councillor who served this council so very well over so many years, I think on behalf of the council, I'd just like to thank him for all of the work that he's done, both for the council, the local community, and the wider community with the Chernobyl children. So just like to thank Mike on that one.
Thank you, Chairman. Just two very brief words. This is the first council meeting I've ever come to where the words "hello trouble" haven't been boomed at me as I walked into the chamber from Mike. And I did tell Mike several years ago that on the day he leaves the council, I was going to say this because it's how we always used to present planning meetings and say, for Councillor Snowling, thank you, all matters resolved.
Yes. Thank you for that. Right. Yeah, as you said, he has an inimitable style when chairing the planning committee, which I well remember. I'll leave it to me to do the funnies, which is one of his favourite comments. Item number 6, announcements. Commencing with my own, they are on page 21 listed, but I think we've had a number of events which are being carried out at the present time because we are catching up on what wasn't done during the COVID and lockdown areas and at times. And I would like to just comment on the joint function which we had here on the 3rd of September with the immediate past chairman, Karen Vincent. And it was a delightful evening. And one of the main benefits from it was an auction of promises, which raised a considerable sum of money for our joint charities. And I think that was a very good result. And I have to say that that was a business orientated function, which was not the conventional chairman's reception. And we had a joint one because obviously she had not had the opportunity to hold one during her tenure of office. But as far as my own is concerned, that will come rather later in my year of office. I have attended, as you will see, a number of functions and have visited a number of receptions at local district councils, and I think the main message coming from those is the expression of thanks to everybody involved in helping communities during the COVID, the hardships suffered by a lot of people, and also the advice which has been given by volunteers to get the jab and also to have food parcels delivered, which has been greatly carried out as far as Broadland is concerned. But it has been demonstrated that this is a feature of all the district councils where much excellent work has been carried on. And I think that that clearly gives a summary of what I have been attending to. I would just like to ask Councillor Kelly to comment on an important function which he played a role in, which both myself and the Vice Chairman were unable to do so. So, Councillor Kelly, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. As your Armed Forces champion and also for Taver and Parish, Mrs. Kelly and I were delighted to attend the Royal British Legion Parade of Flags and the RAF Battle of Britain March Past before the Lord Lieutenant and the Lord Mayor at Norwich Cathedral. It was very well attended by lots of councillors, chains of office, so there was lots of dignitaries from all other councils. And afterwards, there was a lovely but very reduced service because of COVID carried out in the cathedral. And I have to say, it was immensely pleasurable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Right. Vice Chairman is unfortunately not with us tonight, but his attendance has been shown on the list in the minutes. Item 3 is in the section is whether any members of the or the leader. I'll have to ask if the leader has any comments to make at the moment.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to update Council as we've now been on site for 2 months at the Food Innovation Centre that the project is going well and moving forward. It's not quite out of the ground yet, but if you want to see what it looks like, over to my right, so your left, is the architect's model of the Innovation Centre. So do take the opportunity to have a look at that and just see what it is going to look like. Although I have been asked to say it isn't white, although the model is white, just to clarify that point. As I say, the Innovation Centre will be a pinnacle for moving forward as far as the way in which food and the development of enhancing processing within Broadland and also across the wider Norfolk area. And it's an opportunity for us to be part of that and to make a big difference both in the local economy and in the wider economy. So I just thought I'd provide you with that update. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. Members of the Cabinet, can I go to Councillor Copplestone?
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to bring it to the Council's attention that I and Councillor Anthony Boyle attended the local flavours event, which was held at the showground yesterday. It's the first time in 2 years that has happened. It was well attended by our food businesses throughout the area. Sorry, that's gone off. It was also attended by the Dutch trade delegation. We had a VIP reception to launch the Broadland Food Innovation Centre. And also I'm delighted to announce that from yesterday, businesses can start to apply for innovation support and become engaged in the food innovation cluster. Hethel Innovation is applying its proven expertise by delivering innovation support for businesses. And the UEA is developing the emerging cluster, which is being guided by the cluster expert, Martin Collinson. The economic development team have been leading the delivery of the build, and Wilmot Dixon is on site. And Nick Dunn of Brown & Co is already in discussion with potential tenants. Although we're building our Broadland Food Innovation Centre on the Food Enterprise Park, we already have the Condimentum building there, milling mustard and doing mint sauce on licence for Coleman's. And I'm pleased to say the largest vertical farm in the UK and Europe is now being built there, and I think that's a really exciting project, and it's on a 5-acre site, and it will be equal to 240 acres. So thank you to our partners at the Food Enterprise Park for bringing that forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leggett.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you all know that following the stringent procurement process, Veolia have been awarded a 10-year contract commencing April next year. There is, I believe, an imminent press release. I haven't seen the final version. I don't know if anybody else has, about this to the world at large. And that will, of course, say that and it's our intention to roll out food waste collections across the district. And there will be a report coming to Cabinet later in the year about the whys and wherefores of that. I'm also pleased to say that the use of HVO fuel by the waste collection vehicles, in fact, by all the vehicles that Veolia will use, unless they're electric, will reduce emissions by 90%, which I think is a tremendous contribution to our environmental strategy. And just keeping on the subject of waste, the latest waste recycling figures show that once again Broadland has topped the table in Norfolk, and we had 49% recycling, a slight drop from last year of 0.6, but anyway, it's 49%. The next nearest district to us is South Norfolk at 41.8%. So I hope you will all join me being very pleased about that. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Good. Councillor Waymark.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just a couple of things, really. First of all, I wanted to remind people that we've got the Wellbeing Panel on Wednesday, the 6th, the next Wednesday at 6 p.m. The last meeting, we weren't quorate. We had a lot of interesting stuff, but it's a shame people weren't there. So just a reminder, please come along. Even if you're not on the panel, we welcome all comers. Okay, I was going to speak about the Afghan resettlement, but I'll do it later as we've got questions. Okay, there was a couple of things I wanted to bring up. One on the back of the police visiting. It's important that you understand that the Domestic Abuse Act has gone through Parliament, and we were lucky enough to be able to comment on the guidance, the draft guidance, and hopefully shape that so it's even better. There are some very, very important things coming out of the Act. I'm very pleased to say that we now have a statutory definition of domestic abuse, emphasising it's not just physical violence, which is obviously the pattern people have thought it was, but it also includes abuse, controlling, coercive behaviour, and economic abuse. They're very, very important. And also for me, I was very pleased to see when I went through the guidance that children are recognised as victims in their own right at last. So very pleased indeed. I also wanted to tell you about something from the Health and Wellbeing Board yesterday. The Norfolk Autism Partnership have put out free autism awareness e-learning. If you just go to the website, it's just www.norfolkautismpartnership.org.uk, and you can access 45 minutes or as long as you like of free e-learning. It's very, very important because when we do have residents, at some point we will, probably have already, many of us, worked with someone who's got autism. As the old saying goes, if you've not heard this quote before, it's a very important one, really. If you have met one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. It's a huge spectrum. Lots of different people have gone on. But never mind. I'm sure you've got the gist of it. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mansfield Boyle? No. Councillor Emsall?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind all members that we have the briefing on Monday regarding the accommodation review with Ingleton Wood and Roach. That's 4 p.m. and that is a Zoom meeting. Anybody who is unable to meet that, the information will be coming out to all councillors. You should have that on the Tuesday, which is the 5th. But obviously it is sensitive information, if we can all bear that in mind. Thank you.
Managing Director, please.
Chairman, thank you. Just one short announcement from me, and that's just to remind members that George Denton joined us as Assistant Director of Economic Development since our last council meeting. You'll notice who he is within the senior management team. He's probably one of the youngest looking with a dark beard. So hopefully when you do, if you do bump into him in the corridor, you'll take time to welcome him on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving on to question. Councillor Beadle?
We will take it in turns, Chair, and he missed his turn. Yes, Chair, could I ask the portfolio for environmental excellence that the tendering process for the refuse contract was robust and competitive?
Councillor Leggett?
Certainly, I can assure you that it was extremely robust. And it was a point that I made, I think, every time I've mentioned it. It was extremely robust. It had to follow all the rules, which we did. And yes, I can reassure you.
Thank you, Chairman, for that.
I think that's an answer for you. Thank you.
Yeah. A competitive market out there.
I think the question has been satisfactorily answered, Councillor Beadle. Thank you.
Supposed to make a comment on the cabinet members' report? Yes, no?
Which one are you talking about?
Judy and also Fran. Just very quick comment.
Very quick, please.
I think the information today, Judy, in relation to communication that's imminent, even though you haven't seen it yet, in terms of the aspiration to roll out food waste, terribly important. It's been through committees and we are all singing the same hymn sheet in terms of that one. So I think that's welcome news. And Fran, I think, raising the issue in terms of the information, if all councillors weren't aware of it, of statute that is just going through in terms of domestic abuse, neatly ties in with what's happening in terms of the police report today. But also, no doubt, this will also reflect on prosecutions, because there are now more elements of a criminal nature attached.
Further reports from police have been very helpful. There's updates on that as well as that progresses after these statutes in place. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Moving on to item number 7. Questions from the public. We have none. Item number 8. Public speaking. We have no applications for that. Item number 9. Overview and Scrutiny Committee. 2 meetings to comment on. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Chair. And as Mike Snowling would say, I always say the same thing. All matters resolved.
Thank you.
On August and September's meeting.
Right.
Minutes are there to note.
Thank you. Item number 10. Cabinet. 2 meetings to comment on. Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just ask Council to receive the minutes of the 31st of August and the 14th of September meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11, Planning Committee. Councillor Moncur, please.
Also, to coin a phrase, all matters resolved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Item 12, Audit Committee. Councillor Nerden, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I take great pleasure in presenting our Audit Committee minutes. There is just, however, one correction which needs to be made to the approved minutes, and that is, it says that Councillor Mancini Boyle was in attendance. However, she was not, but those minutes were agreed at our last meeting last week. Just like to draw your attention to paragraph 12 and 13 on page 51. It is actually very pleasurable to use the word unprecedented. The paragraph reads, she advised, that's the internal audit manager, advised members that there were no urgent or important recommendations outstanding, and only a few needs attention recommendations, which was an unprecedented and very positive position for the council to be in. And I would like to thank the managing director and the CML team, CMLT, for being proactive in resolving these outstanding recommendations. Paragraph 13 it just refers to the internal audit, or the head of internal audit opinion, which was presented as reasonable, which was satisfactory to the committee in the light of the impact that COVID had on the audit plan. So thank you, Chairman. That's the audit committee minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Lewison. Very pleased to hear those very favourable comments. Thank you. Item number 13 on the agenda, Licensing and Regulatory Committee. I think Martin Morrell, Councillor Morrell.
Thank you, Chair. The minutes before you, all items are matters resolved. There is a consultation ongoing, which will finish up very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 14. Outside organisation, the reports which have been submitted are in your papers, and unless there are any comments, I think you can take it that they have been read and understood. Any further comments? No? Right. Item number 15. Questions from members. I think I've got obviously two from Councillor Karini Kabilu. Two items which will be answered by Councillor Weimark. Would you like to read out your questions, please?
Yes, certainly, Chair. I understand that Norfolk has initially agreed to take 50 Afghan refugees. How many of these are being relocated in Broadland, and are they being properly supported with education, health and mental well-being programmes to be able to integrate successfully?
Councillor Weimark.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the question. I think it's really important at this time. As I said, I was going to make a big statement to start, and I think I will anyway, really. Obviously, over the last few weeks, we've looked on in disbelief at the collapse in the governance in Afghanistan. As many of you will be aware, many individuals and their families have been assisting with the British Armed Forces, which is the reason why we've got so many people we're looking to resettle, because it's too dangerous for them to stay in Afghanistan with the Taliban. So Norfolk County Council has been working with Broadland District Council and all the districts across Norfolk to support this resettlement. So yes, the target is 50 Afghan individuals, which, as I say, obviously will be in families. We are looking to support these people with housing ourselves. We've identified, say, a number of properties, 7 homes at the moment, which could house between 38 and 42 individuals. But we're looking for more, and we're actually going out to private sector landlords and offering them additional monies to get them to come forward. So that is something we're actually actively looking to do. But as I say, the Norfolk County Council will help to find school places for the children and jobs for adults and much more. We obviously will also be helping in so many ways, but as I say, you can help, or everyone in this room can help, really, by donating beds, furniture, household appliances such as toasters, cookers, TVs, etc., and garden tools or gift vouchers. And we also need volunteers to help coordinate all the efforts. There's also a donation fund which has been set up by the Bishop, the diocese here. I've got all the details for that, the Bishop's Refugee Fund. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we're doing. As I say, it's very much in collaboration. It's very much led by the Norfolk County Council, but it's the Home Office who will be allocating families to us. So we don't know yet how many families, but we are ready to take 50 families or thereabouts. There's no families resettled here currently. As I say, we had no allocation from the Home Office, but that will be coming very shortly. We hope to see our first families basically over the next month. So that's where we are. So hopefully that gives you some comfort that we're trying to do our best to help people. And also, as you're probably all aware, we had some people here some while ago, but we're paying into New Roots, who help support people like refugees where English is their second language. It's not their first language, shall we say. So we've commissioned services from New Roots, and so we'll have additional support there. So that was already in place before this crisis, I'm pleased to say. But obviously that will be additional support too for these new families. Hopefully that's answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a supplementary, please, to that one?
Yes, you can.
I think
1 minute.
My main concern is the mental well-being programs for refugees. The culture they're coming from is completely different to our culture. We've had one incident in Tavorham with a refugee who I don't think understood the way this culture works. I just want to know also the second question, if we had capacity to take more, could we? And how can we as councillors help to support these families? And if there are any families, say, an example in Tavorham, am I allowed to know who they are so I can help them?
If I just answer about culture, I think that's where New Roots come in, really. New Roots come with them, and volunteers, because people will need to know there are differences between what is acceptable in Afghanistan and what's acceptable here. Dare I say, around domestic abuse being one. I would suggest that within many cultures around the world, domestic abuse is accepted. It's not accepted here, it's against the law. And that may be something which needs to be pointed out very clearly. However, I would say, as I say, going back to New Roots, I think New Roots can help people to understand the culture that they're moving into. I'm sure it's going to be a real culture shock. Around mental health, I think we will look to support many traumatised people. I'm sure they will all be traumatised in one way or another, particularly the children who've been in the middle of this. So I think our mental health services need to step up. I don't know if we've got any specialist services in place as yet, but I hope we can and will have additional services put in place to support these people, because it is really important, because as you say, their mental well-being is as important, if not more important, than their physical well-being. So yeah, I mean, we've got universal services who will be supporting, and I say with the additional support there, I think we can support the people coming our way, which is good. With your second question, currently, as I say, we are looking to extend our capacity. It is very much from Norfolk County Council, but obviously as a housing authority, well, not housing authority itself, but we will be looking to find additional homes if we can. So we may long term, I would say it is more likely long term that we will take more than 50 people in Norfolk. I think it's very likely, which is why I say we're talking to private sector landlords, and we're looking for more properties, as I say, and also social housing stock as well. That becomes available. With some of the new big developments around Norwich, I'm sure there will be some social housing which will become available. So I hope and believe that they will come online too. We can't actually tell you where the families live, understandably. That's just not okay, really. So we couldn't tell you where individuals live. All right. We can, through as I say, it's being coordinated by Norfolk County Council, through Norfolk County Council. So if you want to put yourself forward as a volunteer, then perhaps you could offer some support directly to families that way. But I don't think it's fair or reasonable for anyone coming to this country to be highlighted. And also as well, I'm not suggesting this is anybody in this room, However, we do know there will be discrimination. People will be discriminated against just because they're different. And to point a finger to say, oh, the Afghans live here on this road in Taveram is not okay. And I'm not saying you would do that, but I'm just saying let's go through the proper routes. Go on the Norfolk County Council website. Okay, there's lots of information on there, lots of ways you can help. If you want to volunteer and give some time, please do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Waymark. Moving to 15.3, Councillor D. Thomas, you have a question to ask.
Someone else got their mic on. Can you hear me? Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Chair. One quick point about Councillor Waymark's comment about donating. I've been fortunate to donate some furniture already online, just to stress that it was really very easy to do, and they came to us to collect it as well. So it's very quick, very simple. So I encourage everybody to do so. To my question, it's just a quick one for you, Councillor Waymark. Is there any update for the best-in-class rollout for the housing at all?
Thank you for the question. Not at this current moment in time, but what I would say is it is on the work programme for the Wellbeing Panel on the 24th of November. We are actually looking at the best-in-class housing model at that meeting. However, what I would say to you is that, and just as a point there, I think everyone had an input when we looked at the allocations policy the first time round, and I would welcome anyone and their input, really, be it coming to the Wellbeing Panel to give their comments there, or if you want to send me an email, by all means, positive or negative, anything you think working well or isn't working so well, then that'd be really good, and we can look at that. As you all know, the policy was implemented in April by our officers with a single one-team system, where they went from going from 2 systems across the 2 councils. The new policy is live and effectively being tested daily with actual cases. I've been in discussion with officers and members throughout, and as I say, the Wellbeing Panel will be modelling cases. That's what we're hoping to do, is look at some real cases, and so we can model them when we should bring it to the Wellbeing Panel. To ensure continuous improvement, including the service and accessibility for our residents, officers will bring a paper to Cabinet and Council after the Wellbeing Panel by January, just so you're all aware. Okay, but as I say, you've got every opportunity to shape this. The Best in Class Housing Programme we'll also look at other projects such as temporary accommodation, access to private sector leasing market, the customer's journey and workflow. And obviously we've touched upon that tonight. So we're looking about how we can finesse that. And I always use the word finesse. When we first went through the allocations policy, we knew it was never going to be perfect when you first start using a system. It will need finessing, does need finessing, and we will look to do that. But what we're also concerned about is, if concern is the right word, is that if we change anything, it will have an impact on something else. It could be that by changing something to actually improve the service, it may disadvantage someone else. So we've got to weigh that up. So we've got to look at all these different things. Post-COVID homelessness demand, well, it still remains high. But I mean, partially that has been driven by as I say, the legislation with domestic abuse, actually, to an extent. We've now got 35 families 35 people in temporary accommodation. So yeah, so that's something there. But there are lots of positives though, because the housing register was immense. It currently stands at 682 families. 56 applications have been approved each month. And to put it in context, when we're looking at the 56 applications, most people that come to us with housing issues, potentially could be homeless, we resolve those issues. So they don't go on a housing register. We resolve those issues, we support them. And that is 85 to 95% of the cases that come through our door or on our telephone or whatever. So just to be aware of that. And at this moment in time, I say we're avoiding people becoming homeless, and we've got no residents being forced to sleep rough that we are aware of. And I put that caveat because we can never be always aware of all these things. But to our knowledge and belief, we have nobody sleeping rough. If you do know of anyone sleeping rough, please let me know or the team know, and we will do our damnedest to sort that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waymark. Councillor Thomas, you have a second question?
Just the one question, thank you.
Just a one. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Going on to 15.4, Councillor Roper, please.
Thank you, Chair. I believe this will probably be to Councillor Copleston, unless she corrects me. What work is the council undertaking to support increased use of electric vehicles in the district?
Yes, you're quite correct. Councillor Copleston will answer that one.
Thank you, Councillor Roper. Electric vehicle charging points have been identified as one of the 5 key priorities in our environmental strategy for Broadland. Officers will be shortly commencing a full review of car parking provision across our district, and this review will include a proposal for a network of electric vehicle charging points situated in council-owned car parks. Unfortunately, this review has been delayed due to directing our officer resource during the pandemic, but we now have the capacity and the additional resource to begin this review, and will be proposing as part of a strategy to ensure compatibility for our residents and visitors. We'll also be looking to secure government funding that was also used to develop the South Norfolk network. Moving forwards, we will gather usage data and expand the network as demand increases, and we will explore other strategic sites accordingly, always remembering that the majority of EV charging will take place in everyone's own home. Our approach will feed into the Norfolk County Council EV charging strategy, which has recently been published. Additionally, we are in the process of researching the potential of collective buying scheme for domestic and/or business EV chargers. It is anticipated that this will work in a similar fashion to the Solar Together scheme, but this project is in its very early stages. From a planning perspective, there are currently no local plan policies that require developers to provide electric charging points. However, officers are working with individuals where there is a willing applicant to put these sort of things in. There is a new planning policy in the Greater Norwich Local Plan, which once adopted will give us greater weight to provide provision for EV charging points. And where appropriate, we would ensure that this is provided with a condition attached to the permission. Consent has been granted for GridServe to deliver EV service station at the Broadland Business Park, and officers will continue to actively engage and promote such uses alongside EV associated with individual premises. Furthermore, in terms of planning for EV, officers continue to engage with Norfolk County Council through the development of the local transport plan and the Transport for Norwich strategy. Both these documents identify a need for EV strategy to support the transition to a net zero carbon transport emission. The Council's draft response to the Transport for Norwich strategy offers strong support for the development of an EV strategy. And this seeks to align between the strategy's development underneath and both the aforementioned strategy documents, and emphasises the need to engage strategically to ensure adequate energy supplies to the county to support this rollout of EV strategy. The Council will continue to engage with Norfolk County Council in the development of an action plan that sets out how its transport policies, including those related to electric vehicles, will be implemented. And there is some additional background. Some car manufacturers offer free charging points with the purchase of electric vehicles, and the Office for Low Emission Vehicles offers a grant to make installing a domestic charging point more affordable. The money goes straight to the installer and is deducted from what they charge. Additionally, there is new legislation due before the end of this year requiring that all new houses will have charging points installed, which would be overseen through the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you. As a supplementary, thank you for that very detailed response. Our neighbouring council, Liberal Democrat controlled North Norfolk District Council, now has 40 EV charging points available to the public, which is roughly 3 times the number available in Broadland. How long do you think it will it realistically take for Broadland to reach the same figure as North Norfolk?
I would have to ask that question to the officers. We did look at putting together a parking strategy at the Economic Success Panel in summer 2019, but because of the reorganisation of the staff and the pandemic, this has been shelved. So I would like to think that this work, now that there is capacity in the team, will come on at pace, and I'd like to see that in the delivery plan, but I can't give you an exact date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Copston. 15.5, Councillor Roper, you have a second question.
Me again, this time to the leader, please. It's been estimated that proposals in the government's election bill, particularly requirements for photographic voter ID, could cost the taxpayer £180 million. Will the leader make representations to the minister that none of these additional costs should be passed on to local councils?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, just picking up on that point, and I guess the key question there is the £180 million isn't for Norfolk, as you say, it's right across. But all councils, all of the district councils are working together with the Cabinet Office on plans for the implementation of voter verification to ensure that the impact on the electoral administrators and the voters is properly understood and properly funded through the government's new burdens doctrine. Local authorities have been assured by the Cabinet Office that they will meet the costs of the new voter cards and the process required as part of that. Its implementation and how that will work across each of the authorities. But as yet, it's all unknown as to how that actually rolls out and how that actually comes forward. So as we move forward, yes, I can assure you that I, as with the rest of the Norfolk councils and the rest of the district council network, will make representation to both the Cabinet Office and the Minister around trying to make sure that payment is forthcoming to cover the cost of any increase in the election costs.
Thank you for that answer. In terms of representations that will be made, taking into account the extremely low levels of voter impersonation that take place and are recorded as taking place, would the leader like to make representations that there are far better things that the government could be spending £180 million on nationally, and we could probably think of quite a number of projects in Broadland that it could better spend the money on?
I have to agree with you. There are far bigger problems and far bigger issues that we should be tackling. Again, yeah, your earlier question around electric charging points, I mean, we could put a lot in for 180 million across the country. We could change behaviours in a whole host of different ways with that sort of funding. But we are targeting, as it turns out, the electoral voter system and trying to solve a problem there that is believed to exist. So, yeah, I'm with you with your thoughts, and yes, we could use that money far better in a lot of different ways.
Thank you, Leader. I think that completes the questions. Item number 16, motions. We have none. Item 17, I will have to read out. I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting because otherwise information which is exempt in information by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, yes, as amended by the Local Government bracket access to information, close bracket, variation, close bracket, order 2006 would be disclosed to them. Item number 8.